Hello and welcome to those that are joining us. We are going to give it about 2 minutes before we start. Thank you. So we will start about 12:02, just another minute while people are joining us. Thanks for coming today. Again, thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll give it one more minute before we start. I can see the participants coming on, so we'll give it one more minute. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. Welcome for joining us to our July public legal information webinar by Community Legal Services. Again, we do these every single month, the last Thursday of the month. Next month, we will be doing one on consumer finances for your home. Please look for our social media to see how to sign up for that. But today we are doing post-eviction mobile home remedies. Just a little bit about CLS. We are a non-profit law firm dedicated to promoting equal access to justice for all. We are a free law firm for those that qualify for our services. And at the end of this program, I can tell you how to apply for legal assistance. Today, our expert, the managing attorney of our Yavapai office, Martin Coleman, will be able to answer questions at the end of the presentation. However, he cannot give legal advice because this is for the public. So if you have individual questions and you need advice, we encourage you to apply for services. But if you have questions about just information questions about what the law says or general information, please put it in the Q&A and we can get to that at the end of the presentation. A little bit more about CLS. We are in Maricopa, Yavapai, Mojave, La Paz, Yuma, and our farm worker office in San Luis. But if you are joining us from our other counties in Arizona, don't worry, because we have amazing sister organizations who handle the same type of work that we do. To the southeast or southern Arizona Legal Aid, and to the north, there's DNA People's Legal Services. And so you can apply if you want legal advice coming from those counties. You would just need to reach out to those organizations. So what types of legal work do we do besides mobile homework? Consumer, education, employment, including unemployment, wage and hour, and farm worker, family law, really focusing on victims of domestic violence, housing, really focusing on tenants and homeowners at risk of losing their homes, healthcare, economic benefits, and tax. Although those are the areas that we provide legal assistance, we are happy to always do these types of public webinars. We're happy to come to your agency and talk just about what the law says. And if you would like us to come to your agency, just send us an email and we can schedule that. So I'm now handing it over to our expert. So grateful for Martin Coleman today. Again, he's our managing attorney of our Yavapai office. Take it away, Martin.
Thanks, Pam. I appreciate it very much. And hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. I want to get right into a point I noticed. The title of this presentation is Post-Eviction Mobile Home Remedies. And during the course of preparing this, I realized that most of the action that's really going to be helpful is pre-eviction. So I will address post-eviction remedies, but in terms of trying to maximize the help we can give to people who own mobile homes in a park, the best thing is to look at what the law is going into a mobile home tenancy and how to take action before an eviction to try to keep the equity in your mobile home. Now, as the rest of this slide shows, the point is to help you avoid losing the equity if a person owns a mobile home in a mobile home park where you pay lot rent. And then, as happens in our, as happens often enough, people's leases are terminated because they can't pay rent, or there's some serious lease violation and you've been given a notice of termination. Next slide. So this webinar assists tenants who own mobile homes and reside in mobile home parks. And then the most important thing I want to say out front is if your lease is terminated, you can, whoever the owner is of the mobile home, can be at risk of losing all of the equity in the mobile home to the park. Next slide. Everything that governs the relationship between mobile homeowners and parks is in a body of law entitled the Arizona Mobile Home Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. This slide shows you a link, how you can find it. By the way, we're going to make this slide available to you so you can get it, look at it, have it, and then click on the link. Now, there's sections of law that are relevant, and they're listed below here. These are all sections of law in this Arizona Mobile Home Residential Landlord Tenant Act. Next slide. First, let's just assume we're talking to folks who own mobile homes. So you, the owner of the mobile home, have a right to sell your mobile home to someone else who then would take that home up and live in the mobile home park. 2, the mobile home park has the right to approve the purchaser you want to sell it to and to require repairs to bring the quality of the home to park standards. And the section of law supporting this is cited right here. Arizona Revised Statutes, section 33-1452, capital F, subsection 1 and subsection 3. 3, the park cannot unreasonably deny your application or the purchaser's application to reside in the park in the home you want to sell. Next slide. Now, here's some of the bad news. You may not want to sell it, by the way. You may want to remove the mobile home, and in order to do that, your mobile home would have to be reasonably new, because as you probably know, mobile homes settle, and they can sometimes, when they get too old, not sometimes, most of the time when they get too old, removing it fractures the structure of the home and just can't be done. There are some statutes that say after a certain age, forget about it. You're not moving your mobile home. It's staying there. Your only option could be to sell it. Now, if you want to remove a mobile home, there's a process defined in the law in Arizona Revised Statute section 33-1451B that says all of your rent that you owe and other money owed to the park owner, maybe utilities or maybe something else, has to be paid prior to removing it. And you have to get a clearance from the park before you remove the mobile home. The clearance is defined in the law, and it's a written document that says, go forth and remove, you're good to go. Next slide. Now, a tenant evicted from a mobile home park cannot remove a mobile home without obtaining a clearance. So it does not matter whether you have been evicted or you just want out, you have to get a clearance. And now an evicted tenant cannot return to the park without obtaining the permission of the park management. And this is a problem that I'll go into a little more now. In Arizona, the eviction process moves very rapidly. And you get a notice, and if it's non-payment of rent, then in the mobile home park, is it 7/14? Within 7 days, you can end up in court. And then once you go to court, if you owe rent that day, the initial return date in court, the court can say, you're out of here. And that means you, not your mobile home, by the way. And then you can be forcibly evicted from the mobile home you own if you haven't vacated from the mobile home you own within the writ of restitution period the court provides, which is basically the 6th day after a judgment is entered. The court can issue a constable a writ of restitution restoring the lot space to the mobile home park. So it can go fast. So now, once you're out, you're a trespasser. You can't just walk back in and say, hey, that's my home, which is kind of a crazy thought, but it is the law. It happens often. We have clients who say, hey, they won't let me back in, and I got a citation for trespassing when I tried to sneak back in and get my stuff. Third, a failure to obtain the permission can result in trespass charges. You want to avoid that. So you can see here, we're heading down a road. The road is, the sign on the road, don't get evicted. Try to avoid this problem before an eviction, because you can see all these problems occur after an eviction that make it difficult to remove or sell a home. Next slide. To sell your mobile home after eviction, you also must pay any judgments from the court, and then judgments including rent up till the day of the judgment. And then in addition, let's remember this, your mobile home is still in the park. You can't remove it without clearance, and maybe you can't remove it at all. So they're losing lot rent, and the park has a right to request that you pay the rent up to the point where either someone's sold and a new purchaser moves in, or it's removed. And so that's an issue there, future rent. And then any other money you owe to the park through the date of closing on the sale of a home. There's another section of the law that discusses repairs to the mobile home to bring it up to written park standards. The person who has just been evicted must make all repairs necessary to bring the mobile home up to those standards before being able to sell the home. Next slide. If you don't pay all the money owed to the park after an eviction judgment, or even after voluntarily vacating the mobile home, the park can take title to your mobile home. Let me repeat that. If all money is not paid that's owed to the park after an eviction judgment, or after voluntarily vacating the mobile home, the park can take title to the mobile home. Next, if the park takes title, you then lose all equity in your mobile home. And so therein lies a problem. And as I was researching this, this came up to me to be the most prominent problem. Mobile homes are old. You live there a long time. Maybe there's a leak in the roof and all of a sudden there's mold in the walls, and it's your responsibility because you own the home. Maybe the weather causes cracking in the face of the mobile home. Maybe it settles, etc. And so the mobile home park is allowed to create park standards or park rules, which say you have to have the mobile home exterior painted reasonably well. There may even have a color scheme that they require you to adopt. You have to make sure that windows and other doors and things are repaired that are involving ingress and egress to the mobile home. So these park rules have to be read very carefully. And the problem, let's just put it in a practical point of view. You own a mobile home park. You want to attract people in there to buy it. To charge a high lot rent price, you want to have a nice place. And then if people don't like the place, they'll move out. Well, if all the houses look like they're eroding, they're old, nobody's repairing them, nobody wants to move in. The park owner loses money. The law recognizes this and allows them to create these standards that have to be reasonable, that say you have to make these repairs. And that's an ongoing thing. Even when you're not being evicted, you have no intention of leaving, they can require you to maintain your home by notice to you, because it's like complying with a lease. The park standards become part of the lease. But when you are in a position where you're being evicted, or you're about to be evicted, then the process of selling it comes with responsibilities to repair. And then the park manager perks up, says, oh, I've been sitting on this thing too long, I should check the place out, and then you get there. So next slide, but I lost my screen here. Let me see if I can get it back. Oh, there we go. Okay, I got it back. Now, what can you do to avoid losing the equity in your home if your lease is terminated? Or even if it's not terminated, if you're thinking of leaving, or that maybe you're gonna run out of money, you got a problem coming. So one, start from the beginning. You want to buy a home in a park? Don't buy a home that doesn't meet the park standards. Well, what are the park standards? I don't know. You, as the buyer, to protect what equity you have in this world that you're going to plunk into that home, need to ask the seller or the park manager for a copy of the park standards before you sign a purchase agreement. Because the park might not enforce its rules well. You might buy a lemon with a hole in the roof and mold, and it needs paint, and you think you got a good deal. Well, guess what? You're not going to win in court if you say, well, they allowed me to buy this home and it needed the repairs when I bought it. Because the law favors the landlord in this regard. It allows the landlord to assert the obligations to keep up the park standards, even if they themselves didn't enforce it when you bought it. Next slide. So what can you do to avoid losing your equity if your lease is terminated? Okay, I see. This is following the same theme, and I'm just repeating myself a bit, but forgive me. Another thing you can do. How are you supposed to know whether this mobile home is up to snuff? Well, remember when we buy cars and folks tell us, go get a mechanic, a used car, have it checked out. Maybe 10% of us do that, but now you're talking about putting the last $30,000 you have on this earth in a used mobile home that you're going to buy in a park. And you need that money. So what should you do? You should pay a licensed inspector to inspect the mobile home before buying it. If there's a problem with the roof, the plumbing, or settling of the home, don't buy it, because you're inviting the very problem that could cause you to lose all of your equity. Next slide. Now, here's another very practical thing to do. And I recognize that our clients and your clients who own mobile homes may have very little money. They may be on Social Security and get $1,500 a month or less. So what do they have? They can't even make ends meet. Well, I'm not sure there's a solution for that. But after you move into a mobile home, put aside money every month, even a small amount, for maintenance and repairs. So put aside $50 a month. Just do it. It might be enough to get you over the hump when you need to sell. Keep it in an account where you're not going to touch it, and then that's all. You need to have this money available if and when you're going to sell and the repairs or maintenance need to be made. Now, number one, let's be practical again. Repair the roof leaks as soon as you notice them. Do not wait. I pray, do not wait. Because what happens when there's a leak? Mold sets in. What happens when your walls get ruined, the exterior comes unlined, all sorts of terrible things happen when water gets into a home to the frame of the home and to the health of the air in the home from mold. Next most important one, paint the exterior every 5 years. Let's say you own a mobile home, they're not that big. And the ones that face the street that everybody looks at, that might just be two sides of the mobile home, okay? Well, make sure those sides look really good. And 1 year paint one side, and the next year paint half of the long side, and the other half of the long side in the third year. And then maybe you don't have to touch it for 6 years or whatever. But you could probably paint it yourself. Mobile homes aren't that tall. Hopefully you or someone can do it. That's a rather simple way to do it, and you may be able to paint it yourself. Next slide. If you know you will not be able to pay rent or have received a notice of breach of your lease, contact a real estate agent to appraise the home's value immediately. You have a right to sell your home. And before an eviction, when you might be classified as a trespasser, you want to get that real estate agent in. I'm scared to tell you how many times I've had people who have a hard time getting a real estate agent in after they were evicted. And part of it is that they were evicted. They're not allowed on there, and getting a real estate agent in is that much harder when you're not allowed in your own home. Now, the next thing, you have a duty under the law to inform the park in writing that you want to sell your home and request an inspection by the park of the home. And please, by all means, now do it immediately when you sense there's going to be trouble and you're likely to run into a problem where you can't pay rent. So then you get the real estate agent in right away, you inform the park in writing that you want to sell it and request the inspection, do it in writing, do it that same day. These things will now get the ball rolling to help you know whether they're going to insist on some kind of repairs. Next slide. And now the park's got to respond to your notice of intent to sell. And let's assume that they send you a written notice that says, you need some repairs. And then you look at it and you say, oh, please, give me a break. And I guarantee it might be painting. That's one of the biggest things. And then doors and windows that aren't plumb and rotted out. By leaks from a roof. So what do? Doesn't matter whether you're afraid you can't pay for it. You immediately obtain estimates for the repairs from contractors. You got to know what it's going to cost to do it, because now you have a cost benefit problem and you have to figure out how you can do this to avoid getting evicted, not making the repairs, not being able to pay your rent and the repairs, not being able to sell your mobile home, losing the title, losing your equity. So you get the repairs, the estimates, they're more money than you have, and now you got to be practical. One, begin the repairs. Whatever you can do yourself, paint, do it. Figure out how to stop the bleeding, fix the leak in the roof. Focus on windows and doors, not on interior problems, okay? Interior problems like mold might bring down the sale value to another person, but they may not be part of what the park standards say. The park standards might be limited to the exterior and the structural soundness, like doors, windows, plumb, rotted, seal plates rotted, etc., and painting. Next slide. Now, hopefully you won't be intimidated by the park manager or too afraid to assert yourself. But I urge you, assert yourself. Talk to the park manager. Try to negotiate with them. Say, I have a problem getting to go. I know I'm running out of money and I may not be able to pay the rent. I want to sell my home. I don't want to lose my equity. It's all I have in the world. Saying these things to a park manager might ring a bell with them because they are human beings. They may have gone through this themselves. everybody living in a mobile home park has had a problem or knows someone who's had a problem. And this is one of the most common. So appeal to their humanity, respect them by trying to talk to them early and try to negotiate. Say, hey, look, I can paint this myself. I'm going to get it done. And I'm going to get that roof fixed. And I'm going to get, I'm going to get, then you figure out how you're going to deal with the windows that are rotted around the side of the doors. But somehow or other, you ask them for help to try to make a plan or give you some permission to, put aside some money from the sale to make the repairs after the sale. And if you put it into a contract and offer it, well, then guess what? They don't have to worry because you signed in the dotted line that you're going to put some of that money you sell it on. And it's going to be in let's say it's going to be in an account that the park can control, an escrow account in their favor. Well, you get it done after the fact. Maybe they'll negotiate. Make sure all of your communications between you and the park are in writing. I know we're human beings. I know we like to talk. I know we want to be conversational. Guess what? We can't always get what we want, and you've got to protect yourself. The only way you protect yourself if you come to a lawyer and ask their help, the best way, have all this stuff in writing so that everybody can see what you've done to make an effort to resolve it. And then there's no dispute. Hey, it's in writing. I see what the issue is. I don't have to worry about you said this and you said that and trying to figure it out. Next slide. Now, here's the post-eviction part, which is really still not post-eviction. As soon as you know there's a problem, call Community Legal Services Incorporated, Southern Arizona Legal Aid, or DNA People's Legal Services for advice, assistance, or representation before an eviction case is filed in court. And if you just tell folks that you work with, then hopefully we all know CLS, SALA, DNA, all the attorneys there who are going to talk to you know, hey, immediately tell them you want to sell it. Immediately ask to have an inspection done. Immediately contact a real estate agent right now. These are all, it's not just, oh, here's the law, we'll fight it out in court. No, it's pragmatic. How do you solve this problem? That's the purpose of the webinar. How do you solve the problem? Because guess what? The repairs are going to have to be made, or an agreement's going to have to be entered into that satisfies the park's right to have the repairs made. Let me put this in perspective a little bit, because I think parks often do things that are wrong. We hear about it and they take advantage of people who lose their equity. But on the other hand, the law is clearly in their favor about these repairs. And you can understand the economic reason why you want to have a mobile home that's up to snuff. And if you keep selling one that's not up to standards, the next person buys it, you're just putting the problem down the road. And so, and then also, if let's say it costs $20,000 to make repairs. Well, guess what? There is no more equity, because the value of your home is directly related to the cost of the repairs needed to make it habitable. And you own the home. So when you sell it and you want to sell a habitable home, well, then you need to make some repairs to take care of that roof leak, make sure the windows and doors have supports around them that aren't rotted, paint it. So there are legitimate reasons by mobile home park owners to insist on these repairs, and the expenses can be so much that they eat away that 30 grand that you have in equity in the house. Now, at some other point in time, there may be ones about, well, what do mobile home park owners do that are not legitimate? That is not going to happen today. What I want to emphasize and ask all of you to think about is that lawyers often fix things in court after the fact. It's a reactive model of helping people. But to lose your equity and to avoid losing equity requires forethought. Starting from the day you think you want to buy into a mobile home park, and then continues through to saving some money for repairs that will be inevitable, and then to using your skills to reach out before you know there's going to be an eviction action or termination, to try to work with the owner get what you need from an estimate for the value of the house, get the repairs, see what you can do it, and try to negotiate an agreement. And call us if you having a problem trying to negotiate. Maybe we can help you negotiate an agreement. Let us try. Um, that completes the substance of this presentation. And suffice it to say, there are some other remedies that sometimes can be helpful after the fact, but they're limited and oftentimes limited by this issue of needing to sell it and keep it up to park standards. So I'll end it here with this and encourage all of you to contact us if you have a problem and you need our help. And then also I'll be available for questions as soon as we're done with the remainder of these. All right, we have here our telephone numbers for applications. And we have our central intake open from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And of course, DNA and Sala have their own intake schedules. You just contact them and they'll let you know. I want to thank all of you for listening, and I hope that all of you have an opportunity to give this practical advice to people who are thinking of buying mobile homes so they don't lose their equity. And that's all. Thank you all very much.
Martin, we do have several questions. Can you discuss the occupant's rights regarding personal property, furniture, clothing? I'm assuming that is, also I see somebody raise their hand. If you want to have a question, just type it in the Q&A. So I'm assuming they're talking about the homeowners a right after eviction to get their personal, that the owner has to give them a reasonable ability to get their personal property out during business hours. I think that's what she's addressing. You want to talk about that?
I will briefly. First of all, as to rights to remove property, the first place you start looking is the Arizona Mobile Home Tenant Act. And that act should have a section that addresses issues of like abandonment of personal property and so on. But the act, or the right of the owner for clearance, doesn't pertain to the contents of the mobile home. It pertains to the mobile home itself. But you're under this problem. The problem is you're now a trespasser. And when you're subject to a writ of restitution, you're given 15 minutes. It doesn't matter whether you own a mobile home or you're renting in an apartment complex. The constable comes and gives you 15 minutes, and the best that you're going to do, if you're prepared, is going to have your medicines and a couple of tools of the trade. Maybe your most precious objects that you can take with you aside from that. It's like a go bag. That's what you're going to need. So that means a lot of property's there. This is your home. And you do have a right to work out removal with the owner. You have to address the issue of the trespass. So you're going to have permission. And you contact the owner and say, I need to remove my property, schedule a time to remove it, my personal property. And it's a negotiation process. Now, it's in your mobile home. They can't charge you for taking the contents out and storing it like they would at a residential apartment. But you still have to get on the premises and get access. You have to communicate with management. And please don't advise anybody to just go there in the heat of the night and take it out and nobody's going to know. That's exactly what can result in a trespass, and then they're going to harden their hearts to you. They're going to give you a hard time. And, so part of it is pragmatic again. Your plan for getting your personal property out has to be started, or should be started, as soon as possible. And you're responsible for doing it. And unfortunately, you should expect nothing more than them allowing you to have your rights under the law. Don't expect them to give you any courtesy. They may not like you anymore. They may be mad at you, whatever. So the only thing you have between losing your property as well is whatever the law provides, and that is what is in that residential act.
And I'd just like to point out, it does say that they have to give them reasonable access during business hours. So if the landlord is refusing, you set up a time and they don't show up, those are things that CLS and DNA and SALA can help with to negotiate. But You want to make sure that your requests are in writing, like Martin has said, and that if they're denying you in writing, that's proof that they've denied you reasonable access. Next question. Is there a specific statute that authorizes the park to take title to my mobile home?
Yes. And because a mobile home is part of it's not a home if it's a mobile home. It is considered like a vehicle. And the title and license is kept by the Department of Motor Vehicles. The Department of Motor Vehicles has an administrative statute that addresses questions of disposition of title when problems arise, like the one with a mobile home park. And so there's an administrative procedure where the park can apply to take the title of the mobile home. There's an absence in my knowledge of another process which I've heard about, which is a non-judicial foreclosure process. And so I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to challenge one of you to go answer it where my knowledge is in default. I'm sorry that I'm not giving you the statute to cite.
No, that's totally
No.
okay to not have the statute off the hand, but
Yeah.
if that person would email us, we will give you the statute. You can do it, you can email me directly at pbridge@clsaz.org. Similarly, what is the time frame for allowing the park to take title if payment is not made? So I think that first there's the eviction process, right, Martin?
Yeah.
So payment's not made. So maybe start with that.
Okay. Well, once an eviction occurs, there is a period of time for you to attempt to remove your personal property. And then there is a time frame in the Mobile Home Park Act for paying your property. It's not specific, meaning I'm not sure the precise date of it. I'm not sure if it's 90 days, 60 days, or it's just stated within a reasonable time. But there is a time frame in the act for you paying for whatever you need to get clearance if you're going to remove it, or doing what you need to do to sell it. And I'm embarrassed to say that I don't have that memorized, and I don't think in the experience that I've had with cases, they don't follow it. They often go beyond that time. In the mobile home park, they often really would prefer to sell it and give people more time, because there's a cost to them having a mobile home there that they now have to remove or make repairs to. So the time, let's just pick a time, 6 months. That's as far as I've seen it go, and then bad things happen after that. The time in the law might even be quite a bit less than that. So
Right, especially if they go through the process of declaring it abandoned, then it can be quicker.
yeah, there's a definition of abandonment. That's where the time frame is set in the Mobile Home Act.
Is there a time frame, similarly, is there a time frame for how long post eviction the homeowner can keep the mobile home on the lot, assuming pays rent? If the time expires, is abandonment and transfer of title to the mobile home immediately. So this would be post eviction, the homeowner continues to pay the park owner rent. How long can that continue to happen?
You have to have an agreement. If there's no agreement, then you're subject to the abandonment statute. So what you must do is attempt to negotiate an agreement where you can do everything you need to. One, take care of the issue of rent. And that's also going to now include the judgment you owe, because they're going to insist on the judgment being paid, and future rent. And then secondly, they're going to say, hey, this thing's got to be brought up to snuff. I don't want this mobile home in its current condition in this park. So you got to make repairs. And so it has to address the issue of repairs. And that's where it's at. You have to have an agreement. If you don't come to an agreement, you have no rights other than the rights that are set forth in the abandonment statute, and you're subject to loss. And then what happens is most people just say, I'm trying to do it, I'm trying to do it, I'm trying to do it. It's not getting done because they can't afford to make the repairs, and it goes nowhere, and then they take the title. And So you've got to negotiate. The reality is most people who own mobile homes and don't have a lot of money are probably not gonna do a good job negotiating an agreement, not gonna understand all of the matters involved in it. They're gonna be very frustrated by it. So the best thing to do is to contact an attorney. That means contact CLS, contact SALA, contact DNA, contact AMHO, the group that assists owners of mobile homes in Park in Arizona. Contact someone who can tell you what you should do and maybe even has an agreement that you can send, because they've put together the agreement for another person before, and then try to negotiate with the park. Next.
Next question. Is the timeliness to lock out after an eviction started faster in Arizona than other states?
I don't know.
Absolutely. That answer, our process is quicker. I mean, well, the whole eviction process, which includes mobile homes, the lockout, our statutes are some of the shortest in the entire country.
There are quite a few states that have short statutes, and then I think of California and New York having longer statutes. But this is a mobile home act. You always have to look to that act in the other states, and it would be hard to find a state with less time than Arizona for
Right.
anything regarding the Mobile Home Tenant Act, the Residential Landlord Tenant Act, and the RV Long Term Act. It's just not a friendly state.
Can you speak about post-eviction action and negotiation for a storage agreement and lease termination? So the rules concerning how long they can store your belongings after eviction.
The storage agreement is a word used generally to describe the kinds of agreements you have that address you departing from the park. And it can be as simple as only addressing your personal property and removal, or it can be as broad as you addressing payment of the judgment and repairs to sell it. So remember the word storage agreement and substitute for that word anything that you can try to negotiate to get your personal property out and keep some equity in your mobile home. And so storage agreement is a term of art, and that's it. It's a contract that addresses the things that need to be done when a mobile home tenant, an owner of a mobile home in a park, is leaving the park, is already evicted, and they need to take care of business, whatever that business is, personal property, equity, anything. And then so that people will want to contact the lawyer to see if the lawyer has a storage agreement that they can look at, so that you can have a starting point in what to write and send in writing to the park. The sooner you get started at, the better. The lawyer asks you, what is your wherewithal? Can you pay the judgment? Can you pay any repairs? Do you even know whether repairs are an issue? And so that's it. The storage agreement is just a contract for whatever you're going to put into it that's going to let you part on the best terms possible for you.
Thanks, Martin. After eviction, but prior to obtaining clearance to move or getting it sold, or the park getting titled. So this is the time before they have title, but they have, after the eviction, but before clearance, can the park enter the mobile home? Can the park owner enter the mobile home?
They have an implied right. It's in the contract. Generally speaking, it's in your contract with them.
And I also know that they can get pets out too. That's part of the rules too. If there's pets being
Right.
left, they have the ability to get pets out also at that point.
That's right. So you go back to the statute on that deals with access, or under the contract. So it's a law plus contract question. You go back and read the statutes, read your contract, read the park rules. And as Pam said, probably the most common thing is pets. And the other part might be, maybe there are vermin in there. Maybe someone broke in. So yes, they do have a right to enter, but they can't enter for any reason at all. They can't just go walk in there and see what you have. I'm wondering whether they may be able to go in there to take an inventory of personal property and the general condition, because let's face it, they may end up with this home taking title, and then they got to figure out what to do with it. So they have to assess it. But hopefully, people will ask for an inspection before, so you know what the questions of condition are. And the tenant basically should be keeping their own list of what's in the park before they vacate. And I go back to foresight and trying to advise people on the checklist of things to do before you vacate that apartment to protect yourself afterwards.
We have two, these aren't questions, but Maribel Schaefer, who is an amazing paralegal at Community Legal Services, said landlords usually get title via abandonment. Not sure what the time is, but that's found under the MVD requirements. And then Maureen Kane said, thank you for all of the info. I volunteer for ALC, retired status in the landlord tenant area, and your webinars are invaluable. So thank you so much. That's a good way to end. Really great information. This webinar will be on our YouTube channel. Also, if you have specific questions about exact statutes, you can email me again, pbridge@clsaz.org with information questions. I'm always happy to, if I don't know it, get experts like Martin to help me answer your questions. And again, I want to thank you, Martin, so much for today's webinar. Very, very helpful. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pam.